Hi, hello, and welcome to Explainwallah, an exclusive section run by LearnStroke IAS classes by Arjun, and I'm Arjun R Shankar. A lot of things happened on the sidelines of G20 summit, and one important thing that we should remember is the Global Biofuel Alliance. And biofuel is going to be a heated word for some time, especially since a lot of people have been talking about electronic vehicles and green hydrogen. In the wake of rising crude oil prices and the global supply crisis regarding the crude oil and the increasing prices of oil barrels, biofuel is going to be a big word. So, what is the Biofuel Alliance going to do? What are the countries, especially India, United States of America, and Brazil, and many other countries which have joined together, going to do in this regard? And what about the biofuel versus fossil fuel debate? Which is the better one? And what are some of the important concerns regarding biofuel? And most importantly, how is India going to harness this biofuel technology? Also, in this context, what is renewable fuel standard of United States of America? In this Explainwallah, let's find out all these answers. So let's quickly start off with the Global Biofuel Alliance. Why do you think the countries have come together, especially take an example of India, US and Brazil and other countries like Argentina, which has actually come together? Basic premise is everybody, the world is looking at cleaner energy and least harm to the environment. That is the moot purpose here. So when countries come together, which produces massive biofuels and countries which uses biofuel, and when you look at alternative fuels for fossil fuels, so simply thing is, you will create more scientific, technological, advanced processes in which you can actually create more biofuels without harming the environment. That is going to be a moot question. And also when a global alliance comes together, you can see that many international standards and certifications regarding the production of biofuels will be taken up, and more investments. You see that there are a lot of startup companies in India right now operating from Bangalore and other parts, which are doing absolutely fine. And recently, one of the companies which is focusing on biofuels even acquired a German company. So biofuel scaling up is really happening, and one of the companies even planted more bamboo forest in northeastern parts of India. So many activities are coming together. When you have a global alliance, you can actually make it under one roof with knowledge sharing. So that is really a good thing to start off. Then comes the moot question. What is basically a biofuel? That is something we have to take a look at. According to the International Energy Agency, the IAEA, it clearly says that biofuels are basically liquid fuels which are derived from the basic biomass. So definitely it is taken from biomass, and also one of the important advantages is that it can even be extracted in liquid forms. So it can be taken in liquid forms, and it can be used as a supplement, as a substitute for the fossil fuels like petrol, diesel, gasoline, aviation fuels, etc. So you can actually create a big disruption in the transportation sector. You know that the global transportation sector, you need a lot of fuels, even for airlines, etc. So biofuels definitely can make a big impact in that. So how is this basically this biofuel production is actually concerned? Even in biofuel production, just imagine that there are two different types, which is called as the biofuels and also the sustainable biofuels. So what is the moot question is, how is this biofuel created? Again, in this, there are two different categories that we have to look at it. One is the basic biofuel, and next is the sustainable biofuel. So just like we say 1G ethanol and 2G ethanol. So what is this basic classification? So let's quickly understand about the basic biofuel. You can clearly understand that this is actually created from sugarcane, corn, soya bean, etc. And on the other side, the sustainable biofuels are created from agricultural waste and even waste cooking oil and processed animal fats, etc. So this is actually the sustainable one. And the basic biofuel that I told you about, which is extracted from soybean corn, is called as the 1G ethanol. And something that is extracted from the agricultural waste, oil, processed animal fats is the second important, called as a 2G ethanol. So in this Global Biofuel Alliance, we often give an important thrust to the 2G ethanol. And you know why? We say biofuel can be created from sugarcane, corn, and even soya bean. So definitely we have to depend largely on the agriculture. And do you really know that agriculture is one of the biggest carbon emitters? And I think a lot of people do not know this. We talk about fossil fuels, emitting carbon and creating damage to the atmosphere, damage to the environment, and biggest carbon emission. But when you see that, you should always remember that agriculture is perhaps one of the biggest emitters of carbon. And that may be the reason why we are giving more thrust to the processed oil and animal or the waste, agriculture waste that we generate, create biomass, biofuel from those sources. And you will not believe, when you take a small statistics in the last 150 years, you will see that more than 400 billion tons of carbon was emitted from agriculture and farming. And only 267, close to 267 gigatons of carbon was emitted from fossil fuels. So just compare 267 gigatons and 400 plus billion tons of carbon was emitted from agriculture. So how is it happening actually? This normally happens because of the inappropriate agriculture, inappropriate land using, grazing, and even use of pesticides, fertilizers, and even deforestation. So there are, and even the farm animals are emitting methane to a large extent. So always understand, agriculture contributes to carbon emissions, and that is why we are focusing on 2G ethanol or sustainable biofuels. Let's quickly understand the global crude oil price and the disruptions that it has created. Everybody knows that after the Russia-Ukraine war, the prices of crude oil has been swinging. The price of oil barrels have gone up. So one thing is very clear. Countries of the West, especially US and other countries, do not want to depend on Russia and Ukraine. So that is one thing. So definitely there is going to be an alternate for that. And take an example of India. India is having more than 87% of the crude oil is actually imported. So just imagine what is the massive amount of foreign exchange that is flowing from India. And also consider the case of transportation sector, which contributes more than 1/4 of the total carbon emission. So definitely you need a solution for that, and biofuel is going to be a big time solution for that. And take another example, when you said about transport, take another example of aviation industry and even shipping industry. You will see that for these industries, it is very difficult for them to reduce the carbon emission. So in this case, 2G ethanol or the biofuels is going to be a big game changer for all these industries. So let's closely understand what is going to be the future of biofuels. And with an example of India, let's move forward and see that in India already a lot of incentives has been given to biofuel production. You can see that big companies are coming and investing in this, and already we have blended. Petrol is actually blended with 10% ethanol, and by 2025 our target is to blend 20% of ethanol into petrol. So it's a good target, and why India is very keen on this is because of the India's net emission target for 2070. So we have a clear-cut target. That is why we are working on that. And also we should have an idea about the renewable fuel standard of United States of America. You know why America is giving a very good importance to this. According to this, you should see that they are increasing the biofuel production to such a level that they want to substitute 140,000 barrel of oil every day. They want to substitute this 140,000 oil barrels per day, and they want to cut down the import of that. That means when you cut down the import, they are trying to create more biofuels in the country. And look at a small statistics also. Countries which are the founding members like United States of America, India, and Brazil, you will clearly see that these countries produce more than 85% of the biofuel, and interestingly, they consume 81% of the biofuel. So production happening, definitely they're consuming. And more than 2/3 of the global demand of the biofuel is going to come from the countries like India, Brazil, and even Indonesia. And when you look at the countries, it is very easy to understand that these countries have good amount of feedstocks and the capacity to create more biofuels. So definitely there is going to be a big future for that. We've already discussed in length and breadth about biofuel. So let's quickly discuss some of the negatives that are coming around. A lot of industry experts and people, environmentalists, are actually against the biofuel, and they have their own points. So, to have a good 360-degree perspective, let's discuss some of the negatives that we hear. Number one negative is that when you take a biofuel and production, especially in India, India is not ready for biofuel production is one of the biggest negative. And if you want to create more biofuels, you need more agriculture surplus. And India is not a country where you have that much agriculture surplus. So, and in order to create more biofuels, you have to divert more agricultural products that can make biofuel. So diverting more arable lands for production of agriculture produce that is going to produce biofuel is not a good solution. And this is this next important suggestion. And next is regarding the Jatropha, because the Jatropha was a big time game changer for creating biofuels. More than 2 decades, everybody was talking about Jatropha, but nothing really came out of that initiative. Because to create Jatrophas on a large scale basis, we wanted more scrublands which we couldn't find out. So that also, came in nowhere. So that is regarding the production. And so that comes the important point of green transitioning. Everybody wants to transition into the green. So according to environmentalists, people say that not every country, like developed country and developing country, transition into the green at the same time. It can be a different process. Like just imagine United States of America can be 100% ready for biofuel production because it has got that surplus production. But it may not be the case for India and China. So it is probably one time developed countries will transition to the green, and the green transitioning will happen for the developing countries at another stage. Say take an example of India and China, which are great producers of coal and biggest consumers of coal. So despite knowing the harmful impacts of coal has on the environment, both India and China will not actually scale down the production of coal or consumption of that in the near future. So this will only happen in a transitioning slow-paced manner. So these are some of the negatives that people talk about biofuels. And what is your opinion on that? But I'm sure definitely whenever we talk about the cleaner energy that can actually create a betterment of the environment without least harm, I think biofuel will definitely emerge as a better alternate for all the fossil fuels. So in the coming days, let's clearly understand where this biofuel alliance and the total concept of biofuel is really going to be.